I'm Karen Jacobsen, the GPS girl, and shortly you are going to join me learning all about how it is never too late to recalculate.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Online Prosperity Show, your number one spot for exclusive insights into powerful solutions, methods, and personal stories behind them. I'm your host, Prosper Taruvinga, and today we're going to be helping you tackle real life struggles and guide you to success. And our guest today is Karen Jacobsen. Now, Karen, how are you doing today?
G'day, Prosper. I am doing well. I'm very happy to be here with you.
Absolutely. Well, the pleasure is all mine, and I think our audience is going to be screaming in their, little corners of the world there if they realize the person that we've got on the show today. And I think today we're going to be in for a bit of a ride as we meet someone who's uniquely positioned to help us all navigate life's unexpected detours. Now, Karen herself is that a gifted concert artist, songwriter, best-selling author, and drum roll please, the unmistakable voice behind GPS and smartphones around the world. She is the actual original voice of Siri. And we're going to be asking all the questions around what she does and how she helps people to recalculate, especially when you're lost in, the journeys that we're taking and embarking on our world. And have you ever noticed when you're lost and, the GPS is just really telling you that it's recalculating, it's very unique voice is soft and actually is gentle enough because you wouldn't want somebody causing more confusion, while you're trying to navigate the roads over there. So that was her voice whispering clarity during all those panic moments when you maybe come to an end road and you didn't even realize that you could actually just turn left. All right. So in this episode, we're going to be exploring how she went from an aspiring singer in Australia to becoming the voice of direction to over 1 billion devices and how that has shaped her message and a powerful transformation. Now, Karen, I could go on and talk about things that I'm not even qualified to talk about. Do you sometimes maybe get taken aback when you put the GPS on and then it's, telling you directions and you're like, wait a minute, I should know where I'm going.
It's sometimes pretty fun, mainly when I'm in a taxi or an Uber and I'm in another city and my voice will be speaking directions in the front and I'm sitting in the back seat. That usually makes me smile because I think this driver has no idea that the person whose voice this is right here in their car.
Yeah. Have you ever tried maybe in an Uber, if you're sitting behind them and then just try and whisper into their ear and then say, turn left?
No, I haven't done that, but that does sound fun.
Because then because a lot of the times the people are usually just in a world of their own. And
right.
Absolutely. So if you're watching this and you're wondering how to handle change, maybe find direction, or maybe just remind yourself that it's never too late to shift course, I think this episode has your name on it. Now, Karen, obviously, like I said, you have done quite a lot, and obviously with the accolades and everything else that comes along with it. Tell us a little bit about your journey. You actually started off age 7 and you idolized Olivia Newton-John, right? From my understanding.
I did, and I was born and grew up in a town called M.E.D.I.A in North Queensland, Australia. And M.E.D.I is known for, sugar white sand beaches and beautiful vistas. We have sugarcane, and not really known as a cultural, not certainly not in the 1970s and 80s as a cultural hub. But I was growing up in Mackay, and when I was 7, onto the television came this most important and influential person in the entire world, Olivia Newton-John. And when I saw her, my life changed, and I knew what I wanted to do with my life. I wanted to become a professional singer and move to America. So truly my every waking moment from that moment onward was figuring out, how do I get to the biggest cities and have a career just like her.
Absolutely. And that is such a big draw, especially starting from that young age and having somebody to look up to. It really gives you something that, you can start working towards. But did you ever imagine that you'd become the voice of millions, that would rely on you not to get lost wherever they're going?
I dreamed of my singing voice and my songs coming out of the car radio. And at the time, the GPS wasn't invented, or if it was invented for military use, it wasn't in everyday life. So I didn't even know to imagine that my speaking voice would be directing people around the world in billions of devices and vehicles. But that's what's happened. And, I do trust life, that even if we are headed toward one particular destination that we're very clear about, as I was when I was a young child, if you keep headed toward what it is you believe you really want and that is meant for you, along the way, doors will open, and you may not expect them, but if you go through those doors of opportunity, it's incredible what can open up. And arguably, I'm having the opportunity to make a larger impact through message and through music, through my speaking engagements, through books, as well as through my songs and musical performances. So when I zoom out and look at the satellite view, it really is possible that it's a bigger impact than I originally thought, even though it was becoming a singer and songwriter and moving to America that drew me and guided me. It led to opportunities that I couldn't have imagined, and a really rich experience of life, and a very fulfilling life to be able to make an impact.
Absolutely. And I mean, kudos for you having realized that right from a sort of early age. So what was it like growing up, having such ambitious dreams, and yet you're living around maybe people that didn't think any further than the sandy beaches you just mentioned?
It was very difficult. I don't look back at my childhood as particularly bright and happy, because I feel like I was so clear about what I wanted to do, and there were no professional musicians in the town I lived in. So there were no immediate role models at all, as in, this person is doing what I would like to do when I grow up. There wasn't any of that. So my access was through the television or through movies or through reading a newspaper. There was no internet. I know it is very difficult to understand that, or to imagine that, when those generations who've grown up with the internet and with smartphones and with connectivity and access to all the information you could imagine. But it wasn't like that. So here I was in a beautiful tropical town where the focus wasn't on being an entertainment professional, and I found it very, very frustrating. And I felt like there was a lot of attitude of that, oh, she's going to grow out of it, or what would she want to do that for? And that kind of response to my very clear dream was really quite painful and quite difficult. But I was clear. I was crystal clear about what I wanted to do.
Absolutely. And from what you're saying, representation matters. What is it about Olivia Newton-John that, really sparked that for you? Because at 7, right now I really want to, be careful because I also have a 7-year-old who only just thinks about wanting to be a witch. I don't know what she has seen in her.
Wicked,
Yeah,
the movie Wicked.
there you go. Yeah, so that's all she wants to be on Halloween. And at that sort of age, what is it that you saw in Olivia that got you?
And I want it to be able to be more than, she just looks like what I could imagine I could one day look like.
Right.
But when you say representation matters, it really does. And that visual representation, as well as the ability and skill level, is very important. And she was a blonde Australian female singer
Right.
who had gone to America and everybody loved her. So I wanted to be popular. I wanted to be beloved and accepted and belong and known and appreciated for my ability as a singer and a songwriter. So she represented all of that to me. And it was deeply powerful. And in some ways, it feels like that possibility drew me to continue to pursue that. And I love this conversation, Prosper, because I haven't been asked in this way about this before. And I have to think that, I do think that energetically, the fact that I came to know from learning more about her and actually eventually meeting her, that she was an incredibly giving, caring, optimistic, spiritual, connected, conscious human being. So that I just believe that the kind of energy that she had was as attracting to me as those physical attributes that we just talked about.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for going there, because we only see usually in other people things that are really, really prevalent in us, even though we're blind to them. And that alone is what then becomes the draw card to help people be, do, and have that which they end up becoming. Okay. Now,
right.
with that now, I mean, obviously having such influence and energy around what it is that you wanted to do. And I'm going to say this with utmost love and respect. I know Australia being a place where tall poppy syndrome is rife. Did that maybe occur in your quest to want to be more, have more? And when you were talking about your grand ambition, what was the response around the people you were with, either other kids, parents, or teachers that would have maybe helped you, achieve what you wanted?
My parents were always extremely supportive of what I wanted to do. They were, I think, at times bewildered because here they had a child who wanted this entertainment career, and that wasn't a part of our family heritage in any way. But they wanted to support what I wanted to do. So that was phenomenal. But most other places, there was not a great level of support for what I wanted to do. It was more, I'm not even sure what the word is, but it was a dismissal, being dismissive of it, and that, as I had already said, that I would grow out of it. Now, when I went to Brisbane, it was a bigger city. I studied there. I met people who were more supportive of big dreams. I went to Sydney after 4 years in Brisbane. I again felt like there was room for me to grow and to be appreciated and to have ambition. But even then, it was clear that there was only so much you were supposed to want for yourself. It wasn't until I arrived in New York City, and then it was completely acceptable. It was expected that you would have big dreams and you would go for it. And people were not dismissive in any way of big dreams, because the next person you meet, the next cafe you're in, you could connect with somebody and an opportunity could happen. It's a city filled with possibility, with professionals at the top of their game across many industries. And the kind of thinking, the difference for me is in Australia, there is often, but not always, a lid on the level and the kind of thinking. In New York, there was no lid on that. It's an incredibly open, encouraging, and supportive social construct. And I was in heaven. I arrived and there were people who were optimistic and ambitious and hardworking and wanted to have fun and wanted to connect and work together to, when I met people, truly the reaction was, what do you want to do? Why are you here? I would share that and they'd be like, oh my goodness, how can I help you? Who can I introduce you to? These are not questions that I hear from Australians, even years later, having moved back to Australia for the past 5 years. I sometimes encounter people who are thinking that way, but I have to say it's rare, which I do find challenging, because I, like many human beings, thrive in a supportive environment.
You and me both. And it's one thing, when you're coming to a place, just like you arrived in New York with nothing but a suitcase full of hopes and dreams. And that would have been the same. I came in by way of a backpack full of hopes and dreams. And then I'm like, yay, I'm here. And everybody's like, yay, you stay there, You're like,
yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So how did that sort of change and that culture and acceptance of you can be bigger, you can be brighter and better? How did that shape your recalculating mindset?
Well, what I want to say about that is, when I was in the US, like I was in New York City for 20 years, and a large part of my creative community is still in the United States. Even though I'm in Australia, I'm connected remotely and then we spend time together in person. So I found the best way for me to keep my head straight about what I was doing and why I was doing it and working toward it without being taken out by those who were wanting to keep me in my place, was to surround myself with like-minded people, to surround myself with people who also were growth-oriented and possibility thinking and up to something. And I would say to anybody listening here, no matter where you are in the world, including Australia, this is paramount to connect with, find, and grow alongside people who are equally passionate about what they are doing as you are about what you are doing and what you want to accomplish. So I'm a huge proponent of creating structures in your life and in your business life for this. So, we've those of us who read professional development books will read that wealth and prosperity can be determined. You can determine somebody's wealth by looking at the 5 people they spend the most time with, and that can be a bitter pill to swallow, but it is pretty accurate. We are so affected by the people and information we are influenced by, and that is in our direct circle. So to create structures and hang out with people who are thinking in that more broad and uplifting way is, to my mind, how you really build a quality of life that is going to work no matter where you are in the world. And however you need to connect with them, whether it be online and virtually or in person.
Absolutely. See, but I would also maybe add that, obviously with what you're saying, if you want to go far, obviously you can go alone, but if you want to go further, you go together. And there
Mm-hmm.
are people that have already figured out most of the things that we are struggling with that can actually give you that direction in order for you to then, shortcut the learning curve and, really achieve what it is that you are achieving. But I also feel like you need to know who you are as a person, what it is that you want to achieve, and what it's going to maybe look like when you've arrived. Because of all the kids that were in your generation, you were not the only person that listened and saw Olivia Newton-John at that particular time, but you saw what you saw and you acted on it. So
Mm-hmm.
half of the time,
Oh,
some
for
people,
sure.
yeah, and some were your friends that you would have grown up with, but they didn't end up having or sharing the same success that you went on and achieved. So
Mm-hmm.
it's one of those things. Now in 2002, you did the world famous audition.
I did. They were looking for a native Australian female voiceover artist living in the northeast of the United States. And I went along to the audition, and they had me say some things like, at the next intersection, turn left. They also had me say, you have reached your destination. And everybody's favorite, recalculating. And I came out of the booth into the control room, and right away, they said, we'd love to hire you, and we are going to take you to up to upstate New York and put you in a hotel, and we'll need you for 3 weeks. We're going to be recording 50 hours of script
Wow.
for no longer than 4 hours a day, because we do not want your voice to sound fatigued or tired in any way. And that's what happened. They flew me up to Ithaca, New York, put me in a hotel. On the first day, they came and got me and drove me to the studio, and we recorded for 4 hours this massive script the size of a phone book. It was huge. And we recorded for 4 hours from 9 till 1. And then I went to lunch at this beautiful restaurant called Moosewood. Beautiful because it's an historic restaurant, very well known vegetarian restaurant. Went back to my hotel room and rested my voice. And we continued that for 3 weeks to record 50 hours of script. And at the end of that, I went back to my life in New York City as a singer and songwriter. And it wasn't until 2 years later I got a call from a girlfriend. She said, Karen, it's Nadia. And I bought my husband, we were driving from Maine back to New York City after the Christmas holidays, and I bought my husband one of those new GPS thingos. And he said, oh, let's put it on the Australian voice. And we did. We put it on the Australian voice. And oh my God, Karen, it's you. It's your speaking voice on the GPS. And my husband turned to me and he said, oh no, I bought you Karen Jacobsen for Christmas. And that is how I found out that my speaking voice had ended up in being in what is now over 1 billion GPS and smartphone devices and elevators and cruise ships and software applications around the world, giving people directions, telling them where to go and what to do, while I am here with you right now having this conversation, Prosper.
That is phenomenal. So obviously, you wouldn't have known that what you were doing during that time was literally freezing a moment in time that generations to come would use and reuse and have direction in their lives. How does that make you feel, though?
It's really quite unusual. I cannot really even connect with how that feels. It's really unusual. It was still, all these years later, it's such an unexpected development in my singer-songwriter career. And it's led to a lot of wonderful opportunities, and opportunities I've also created for myself by building a brand. But it is, I just have to use the word unusual.
And the voice that Siri still uses, that is you currently, right?
So I am in a lot of different devices. There are now a lot of different options. I am in every cell phone of any kind sold, there is an accessibility function. If you go into that accessibility function, you can choose Karen or enhanced Karen. And for goodness me, those people who have challenges with their eyesight, they can go onto the screen and they can touch, put the accessibility function on and touch the screen, and my voice will say mail, and they move to the next app and it will say messages, and the next app weather. And so then that enables people without being able to see and read things to navigate their way around their cell phone. And now that's led to voices like mine reading out every email, every text message. You know, in those early years, I really started to have a following of people who were whose eyesight was challenged, because my voice was with them all day, every day, being really being their partner in life.
You know, every time you keep saying accessibility, my TV says that, and I can hear that in your voice, you know, because
wow.
So looking at this way, many of you just know you and maybe recognize your voice, but maybe not as a person. Does that make people feel like they actually know you, or yeah, you know, even though you're
Sometimes that
anonymous?
happens. Yes, I will meet people and they feel very familiar with me. They want to tell me their stories, their GPS driving stories, their navigating stories, their life stories, ways that they have recalculated their lives, things that have happened to them that they have overcome and shifted through. So, yeah, I think when you have a voice that is a companion, I will refer to the car, and you're driving and you have this voice that's helping direct you, and you might be in the rain, it could be dark, it could be at night, you could be lost, you could be alone, and that voice really is like a driving companion. So people do develop somewhat of a connection to that voice.
Absolutely. Now, Karen, obviously, you did mention your husband earlier on, and you know, people that might, you know, be close to you. Do you ever maybe play tricks on them while in the car, or maybe try and give them directions? Because I'm only just thinking, if I'm driving and my wife tells me to 10 left, it's literally 10 left. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we have had some fun with it over the years. More so it's when we're with friends, and I'm, you know, traveling in a city and we're with friends and someone else is driving and I'm in the back seat, and I've had occasions where the GPS is set to the direction we're going and my voice is giving those directions in the front seat, and then I have this friend, Richard, and he would keep turning back and saying, "Is that right, Karen? Do you want to cross-reference?" And then you know, we really had a lot of fun with that.
Absolutely. What I like about the GPS, not only have you given people direction, but also, you see, when you're going into a car, you don't put the address of where you are, you put the address of where you're going, and then you let Karen guide you. Now, your voice has actually helped a lot of people get home safely to their loved ones. And obviously, as a GPS girl, what do you hope to guide people towards in life, you know, in this instance, not just geographically, but with purpose?
I think what I love about the Recalculate brand, and my, you know, my favorite saying, which is, "It is never too late to recalculate," is for people to be able to keep possibility close by at all times. And even if it is a difficult time, which I've been personally having this year, I think to know that, look, this is a point in time, and or this is not forever, and also that there's always something you can learn and make out of a situation. So it is never too late to recalculate. It is never too late to take another step in the direction of the dream life you want for yourself. And I think that this is possible at every age. It is, it can be, it's a set of tools and a message that is evergreen, that, you're going to have very different choices as a teenager finishing high school and moving into university and further studies and that next stage of life, as you are when you're beginning life with a partner, when you are traveling, when you are older. It's not only, new beginnings are not only possible when you're young, new beginnings are available to us at all times. So I think that that's part of the message that I love to share is if you're not absolutely and totally in love with your life, it isn't too late. It's not too late to do something about that. And that can be as simple as picking up, a notebook, a piece of paper, and starting to and then grab a pen and write down a couple of things that come to mind that you would love to have present in your life. You don't have to know how that's going to happen, but to have some concept of what you would love in your life. That's as good a place as any to start.
I mean, even if Karen is going to be on the GPS, if you don't know where you're headed to, she's probably not going to be able to help you. So it's one of those things that when you put the address of where you're headed to, that will then, obviously reverse engineer back to where you are, and you can sit back and obviously listen to the soothing voice. But Karen, somebody might just think, oh, well, she grew up in Mackay, went to New York, and maybe she was in the right place at the right time.
Oh, it was so easy. That's right. I left all the people I loved to move to the other side of the world on my own. Super easy.
And she just came around, and Steve Jobs was just presenting the iPhone, and she was called in. Hey, you sit here, rest your voice for 4 hours, and then she just did what she did. You've overcome quite a lot, anxiety, financial disaster, and which then really gives gravitas to the story of recalculating and makes it even more real. Can you maybe share an invisible lesson from your times that really got you to believe that this is the message that I was meant to be sharing with the world?
Oh my goodness. I'm going to share about anxiety because when I was a small child, I loved to sing, and I just wanted to be on stage singing all the time. I loved it. But anytime it was leading up to a musical performance or a piano exam or the school musical, I would start to have very extreme abdominal pains, so bad that I would be at home from school for about a week at a time. And they took me to the doctor, and they did every test that was available at that time. And the doctor would come out and say to my parents, Mr. and Mrs. Jacobsen, there is absolutely nothing wrong with your daughter. It's just nerves. That's what they called that in those days. That's what they called anxiety. They called it nerves. And there's nothing we can do about it. It's just nerves. Well, those nerves were very difficult for me because I knew I loved to sing, but my body was sending me these very confusing signals. And I would then go to do the performance. I knew I wanted to, and I would do the performance and I would make it through it, and I would just be so, so happy to perform. But that anxiety, it had me. I didn't have it. I couldn't manage it or control it. So fast forward, I am 31 years of age, and I've decided I'm going to move to New York City. And I had that problem. I still had this anxiety. I had some tools. It wasn't as extreme as it had been in the past, but I needed to do something about it. And at that time, I was studying with one of Australia's most spectacular singers and teachers, Kerry Bedell. And I learned that the value of rehearsing something 50 times had the same value as delivering it once. So practicing something 50 times was the same value as delivering it for real and performing it once. When I learned this, I arrived in New York City and I set out to be on stage as often as I possibly could. And part of my thinking was that if I was on stage almost every night, then I wouldn't have enough time to become nervous about the next performance. I would reduce the lag time in between. And it worked. I got on stage so frequently. I was performing shows in my own right. I was a guest artist on other people's shows. I performed for money. I performed for no money. And I was able to really break through this and develop this ability to be what I like to call performance ready, able at a moment's notice to hop up on stage and perform a song or to speak. And I say to those listening, are you performance ready? Are you at a moment's notice able to deliver the very best of what you are here to deliver? It may not be speaking or singing or writing songs for you. It could be something else. But do you have your skills in such a way that you can step in and save the day in some cases just by being ready? And all the practice in the world, we still need to do it, but making sure we are actually in that professional situation where we are delivering for real as often as we possibly can will really help to achieve mastery.
I like that. It's like saying if you stay ready, you won't have to get ready because
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, right. And I think that also happens in sports where there's basketballers that every single day they make sure they make 1,000 made shots so that on one day when everything lies upon you making that shot, it's something that you're just going to be doing from muscle memory. And other people want to wait until everything is perfect for them to then say, I will then be ready. So did you use this sort of strategy when you sang in packed stadiums and you shared stages with Norah Jones? And how did these adrenaline moments then connect with the calmness that you need to give when you're giving the GPS voice summary?
Yeah, I have really, it's been a life's work to manage anxiety. And I have used a lot of different tools, being able to, as you said, to be ready, to be performance ready has been a huge piece of that for me. How I maintain I would call it an equilibrium, is through meditation. I highly recommend anyone listening who is not regularly meditating, seriously consider, if not jump into a regular meditation practice. You don't have to call it meditation. This is not religious. You can call it mindfulness. You can call it mind training. You can call it anything you want. But as little as 2 minutes a day will make a difference. And that is to stop the action, to close your eyes and to breathe in and breathe out and focus on that breath for a couple of minutes. Twice a day is what I would recommend. So I started meditating in 2011. I started 15 minutes a day, and I noticed right away a real difference in my ability to focus and to generate that kind of important calm when needed, when there was a high adrenaline moment. And I've meditated daily since July 7th, 2011, and I have not missed a day. And I tell you this because it is making that promise to myself that I am going to keep that promise and do this every single day. There are many other breakthroughs around a daily meditation practice and health benefits and mental health, etc. But it is that I've kept that promise to myself to meditate every day without missing a day, and my relationship with myself, that is where I feel I've had the greatest benefit. Then in 2019, 6 years ago, I had been very drawn to transcendental meditation, and I went and did that course. And since August of 2019, I've been meditating twice a day, 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the afternoon. And how do you have the time for that? I can hear everyone's mind screaming. And I don't know. I didn't do it for a long time because I thought that's just too long. How on earth will I have time for that? Well, I find the time. And I make it a priority, and I build my life around it. And I don't know how people live without that kind of steadying practice. But I hope that answers your question, Prosper.
Oh, absolutely. And I quite like that, because it really opens us up to, because with all the noise that's happening in the world, you know what I mean?
Noise is deafening.
Quieten your mind and
That's
really,
right.
go within and find out that very thing that keeps you wanting to be more, have more, and do more. Now, I don't know if you like this, Karen, but have you ever noticed when people get lost on their direction or whatever it is, even though their GPS is on there, the first thing they tend to do is to lower the volume in their car just so they can concentrate. And that could also be lowering the voice of Karen in the GPS there. Now, so many people are in sort of transitional phases in their lives. How do your 5 directions for recalculating actually help people bounce back and keep going?
Well, I have a 5-step process, the GPS Girls 5 Directions for Recalculating. And this is something that you can use, this process, when something small goes wrong or doesn't quite go the way you would love it to go, or in a major life moment. So the first is to notice that you are off route, to simply notice. So sometimes we can be going along in our lives and something isn't working and hasn't been working for quite a while, but we cannot do anything about it until we notice that it isn't going how we would love it to be going. So bringing an awareness and noticing that you are off route is the first direction for recalculating. The second direction is to be willing to change direction. Willingness is the most challenging aspect of these 5 directions, because you cannot make somebody do something they do not want to do. It's what we were talking about before, having that openness and that willingness to see things differently, to consider other options, to make a change. So to be willing to change direction. A third direction for recalculating is to clarify your destination. So now that you know that you're off route and you're willing to do something about it, okay, where do I really want to be headed now? And it could be the same destination you were headed in before, or it could be a course correction because new information has come to light and you realize, oh, I'm not headed there anymore, I'm headed here. So it doesn't have to be bad news. It can just be a shift in where you're going because you have more information. The fourth direction for recalculating is to embrace the steering wheel. What this means is to get yourself ready to go for it. So now you're clear where you're headed. It's really taking a deep breath and getting yourself ready, geeing yourself up to take that next step. And the fifth and final step of the 5 directions for recalculating is to accelerate. And this is all about action. It's about making a move in that direction you now want to be headed to. And this can be simple. It can be broken down into making a phone call or doing a Google search or writing a quick list of ideas or calling a friend to share with them what you're planning and to have a conversation. So it is not necessarily accelerate and do 1 million things at the same time, but it is about paying attention to that energy that usually comes with redefining where we're headed and making the most of that energy and actually taking some action.
Like this, because so many people, just coming back to your M.E.D.I.A upbringing, I think, and I believe a lot of the people that were born there, are still living there, have never left and don't want to leave, and that's their life, which is a-okay and fine by what they want to do. But you know what I mean?
Right.
But there's got to be a willingness to see things differently. Like you did, you jumped on a plane, didn't even know where you were headed to, but you know, just had hope and a dream that something was going to work out of this. And I've been to auditions before, you know, half of the time you just read enough of a brief and get enough of the address. And when you show up to the place, they start telling you what to do. And there's a lot of waiting and there's a lot of people to compete with. And it's just one of those things that some people just walk away thinking, oh, I've got better things to do with my life. Had you not just really stuck it out, you wouldn't have actually maybe, you know, ended up doing this that you're doing, and you didn't just leave that particular experience where you left it, because some people would have just rested in their laurels. You literally took it on, and obviously now you are the GPS girl, and I love what you've done with all of this. Now, for people that are also going to be looking for more direction and obviously wanting to move a little bit further, or might need the accessibility side of this podcast, where can they go on the internet to connect with you, Karen?
Oh my goodness, they can connect with me on LinkedIn. That's a place I love to connect with people. I'm also at KarenJacobsen.com, S-E-N, Jacobsen, and at thegpsgirl.com. And I have a YouTube channel that I'm also going to share about, where my speaker reel sits for those who are part of organizations who bring in professional speakers, because I do speak at many events, national and international events, and love to share the message of recalculating, as I do in my book, Recalculate: Directions for Driving Performance Success. And I really appreciate you asking, Prosper, because I love to connect with people. Of course, I'm on Instagram and Facebook as well, but my preferences are YouTube and the website and LinkedIn.
Absolutely. And I think obviously if people really want to connect, they could
That's right. They can just take their device. Exactly.
Absolutely. I'll make sure that all those links are in the show notes below so that people can actually go on and connect with you. Now, I've just been looking on your site, and a client once said your keynote felt like it was the universe handing them directions. Now, do you maybe have maybe some sort of favorite, testimonial that really makes you think, what I do is really needed in the world? Because so many people might not have that direction that you might have had as a young kid, that North Star that really got you to move. But then just hearing your voice and your story and your experience is now igniting that flame inside of them that they never thought they could.
It was something I really do want to share, and I thought of this earlier when we were talking about it, is that if someone is listening, if you do not know the direction you want to go, you really don't know, and you feel like you've never known, and you've tried really hard, and you're concerned that you don't know what you want to do, I want you to know that you actually can trust that you do know. And it is a case of removing all of the noise of the world, what other people think, what other people want for you, and from the pressure on yourself that you don't think you know. And that it is okay to keep looking and to keep looking and to keep peeling all of that noise away, so that you can actually hear yourself think and really hear with clarity what it is you want to do. The other thing that I hear is that people know what they want to do, but they dismiss it. And they think, I can't do that. I don't know how to do that. Or who do I think I am to do that? So if you're someone who thinks, oh, I don't know, I don't have direction, I don't know, I've never known what I wanted, I'm just kind of living, it doesn't have to be being on stage in front of 52,000 people. It's not like that. But then there is something that you are passionate about. I know there is. and there are things that you really like doing. So I would suggest doing more of the things that really feel great to you and purposeful to you, and then that clarity is going to arise.
Mm. Uh, Karen, I mean, obviously we could go on, and
Yes, we could.
people like yourself are paid to speak, and I'm obviously and cognizant of things of that nature. But I really appreciate your time with me today. But when we started the conversation, Karen, you introduced us to 7-year-old Karen in M.E.D.I.A who saw a vision and followed it through. And obviously, you then did punctuate that a little bit with now you go in and you meditate and you revisit. Obviously, you would come across that inner child once in a while and, find out, what's next and things of that nature. What are you telling that little girl every time you meet her based on what she helped you achieve? And if you are meeting her at that particular time?
I think that it's okay to be different. It's
Mm.
okay to be different to everybody else. Life is so confusing sometimes because we have all of these messages to fit in
Mm.
and to belong and keep our head down so that we can be one of the cool kids, no matter what age we are. But it is by celebrating our differences and allowing ourselves to be the full expression of our own unique selves, I believe that really brings us happiness and contentment. So I would say to 7-year-old Karen that it is okay to be different, and it's okay to be somebody who is bright and sparkly and shiny and extroverted and loves to write songs, even though no one else is like that in that particular way.
Absolutely. I don't know if you realize what you just did there. You've been giving billions of people direction, but I think you've actually given them permission to be that which they want to be, because so many people are just waiting for that, somebody to tap them on their shoulder, not only to turn left, but to really lean into it. And thank you so much for the work that you're doing out there.
Thank you, Prosper. You have reached your destination.
Thank you for that. Absolutely. I can't wait to go back in my car now and be like, wait a minute, Karen, am I lost?
That's right.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Well, that was enlightening. And thank you so much, Karen, for the work that you're doing, not only for yourself, but for the rest of us in the world. And for those that are listening right now, I think today's episode was just a dose of inspiration and humor and also practical direction from somebody who literally guides us when we drift away. And if you felt seen, guided, or simply entertained, I want you to drop in the comments there, just sharing which direction you will need to recalculate for yourself today. And it's things like this that just really gets us to appreciate humanity, that somebody saw a vision, saw themselves doing something for the world, and she went on and she did it. And I can't thank Karen for all the work that she did, even though she didn't know that she was going to be changing lives and giving people direction, by just showing up to that audition. So thank you so much. Now, for those that are subscribed to the show, up next, if you check either left or right of me, we're going to be exploring ideas that will help you live a happier existence. And we're going to be looking at simple shifts that spark everyday joy and well-being. And trust me, I know that the next episode is going to be fantastic. So just subscribe and share these episodes with your loved ones, because just like the GPS. Sometimes it takes a little bit of calibration to get you back on the road to a richer, more fulfilling journey. Until next time, bye for now. Or should I have said, you've arrived?